What if the final breath isn't the end, but the beginning of something greater than we've ever understood? What if the heart stops, yet consciousness ignites, like a final call piercing the veils of reality? In a clinic in Canada, and later at the University of Michigan, doctors witnessed something that textbooks say should be impossible. Seconds after death, the brain flares up one last time, a storm of gamma waves, like a flash of light behind closed eyes. What happens in those 13 seconds between breath and eternity? And what if it's not a farewell, but a return? Welcome to Zeitgeist. It began quietly. In an operating room in Ontario, Canada, an older man unconscious, no measurable brain activity. Everything pointed to death. But at the exact moment his heart stopped for good, something unexpected happened. The EEG, which had shown no patterns for some time, suddenly burst into a storm of gamma waves, the highest, most conscious frequencies of the human brain. At first, doctors thought it was a technical glitch, an artifact. But the signature was clear. The activity lasted exactly 13 seconds, and it didn't resemble the breakdown of a system, but rather its peak performance, as if consciousness was resisting, or detaching. What followed wasn't published immediately. Too improbable, too risky for the clinic's reputation. But in 2023, a research group at the University of Michigan made the same observation, independently. They studied rats at the moment of clinical death and found a dramatic spike in synchronized brain activity shortly after cardiac arrest. Again, high-frequency waves. Again, about 13 seconds long. The researchers described it as a coherent neural transition, a coordinated brain state not resembling decay, but perhaps the highest form of inner experience. Here's where awe begins. The patterns mirrored those seen in deep meditation, lucid dreaming, and near-death experiences. As if the brain, before switching off, opens a window, not inward, but outward. What is this window? A memory, a projection, or a passage? The 13 seconds between breath and eternity are not dark voids. They are a flicker, a call, perhaps a final glimpse into a deeper reality. And perhaps it's not the end, but the beginning of what truly matters. Spirit to spirit. When the AWARE study, Awareness During Resuscitation, was released in 2014, the medical world was divided. Led by Dr. Sam Parnia, the study analyzed over 2,000 cardiac arrest cases and documented multiple reports of awareness during a time when EEG showed no brain activity. One case stood out. A man who was clinically dead for 3 minutes, no brain function, yet accurately recalled events in the room. Researchers confirmed his account matched the timeline, sounds, and actions precisely. If the brain is out of power, how can experience still arise? Asked Parnia. No answer, but the question could no longer be ignored. In 2022, the topic resurfaced with even deeper technology. At the University of Michigan, ultra-high-resolution EEGs were used on dying patients who were organ donors. In 4 subjects, researchers observed a sudden burst of high-frequency gamma waves after cardiac arrest. Waves usually associated with consciousness, spiritual experiences, or heightened awareness. They called it a burst of synchronized activity, a mental flash, a final spark. And this occurred after the heart had stopped beating. In 2023, Berlin's Charité Hospital also published observations of critically ill patients under constant monitoring. In several cases after clinical death, no heartbeat, no breath, no measurable EEG, there was a return of coherent brain oscillations. It was as if the system awakened for a moment, said one researcher. They suspect this activity may not originate from the brain itself, but from a deeper systemic field. Some called it a field of the beyond, an informational layer beyond biology. So what is it? A neural echo, a memory, or a flash of the true self beyond the physical body? Several studies compared these patterns to near-death reports. tunnel perception, life review, a light that loves. The neural signature is similar to states seen in deep meditation, DMT trips, or REM sleep. But this time, no body, no sensory input, no chemical basis. So what remains, if not consciousness itself? If all this research shows one thing, it's this. Consciousness may not originate in the brain, only pass through it. Like light through a lens. The lens dies, the image shatters, but the light remains. Perhaps, just perhaps, these 13 seconds and their gamma waves reveal a non-local field of consciousness. Not mortal, not material. And if that's true, we are on the edge of the greatest shift since Copernicus. You are not your brain, you are consciousness. What happens in those seconds when the heart is silent, but consciousness speaks? More and more near-death experiences, NDEs, reveal a striking pattern during this exact 13-second window, the time after the heart stops, before brain collapse. People report not darkness but clarity, not fear but peace. Almost all begin with suddenly leaving the body, a view from above observing. They see themselves on the operating table, hear conversations, and recall details later confirmed by medical staff. These experiences occur when measurable consciousness should be absent. A core element across cultures is the light, not blinding but warm. It is intelligent, they say. It knows them. It loves them. Often appearing at the end of a tunnel, not narrow or scary, but a passage into something greater. Some say time stopped. Others speak of voices, sounds, or deep knowing without words, just a feeling. I was home. Dr. Mary Neal, an American orthopedic surgeon who was clinically dead after a kayak accident, said, "I was surrounded by beings of light, and I knew I had always belonged to them." What stands out? The similarity of reports. In the 2001 Lancet study, Dr. Pim van Lommel, over 300 patients were surveyed, regardless of age, religion, or education. 62% described the same phenomena: light, tunnel, life review, oneness, love. The IANS database, International Association for Near-Death Studies, analyzed over 1,000 cases and found the same. Even children, like Colton Burpo, who described a sister his parents had never told him about, echo these patterns. No vocabulary, no prior influence. So the question arises, how is it that people from Japan, Mexico, Germany, or Ethiopia report the same steps, same feelings, same presence of light? Is it biology, a cultural archetype, or a glimpse into a greater reality? Some scientists now propose a consistent architecture of consciousness, a mental topography that exists beyond biology. Like all bodies speak different languages, but share the same DNA, so too might consciousness express the same experience across cultures when it detaches from the body. And maybe, just maybe, this moment of being home is not the end, but recognition, a return to what we truly are. Not a dream, but the awakening. What if it's more than just poetry? That a gate opens when the final breath leaves the body. Countless traditions around the world reference a small window of time, just seconds, in which the soul departs the body. Spiritual traditions, shamanic knowledge, and ancient scriptures agree. The transition doesn't happen sometime. It happens almost instantly and consciously. The soul hesitates, observes, decides. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Bardo Thodol, read aloud to the dying, the soul's journey begins immediately, in 3 stages described with exact timings. The first is the clear light state, beyond form, space, and time, where the soul recognizes or flees from itself. The Egyptian Book of the Dead depicts a similar transition. The soul leaves like a bird, guided by Anubis through gates of the underworld, thousands of years old, yet matching modern near-death accounts. Early Christianity, before dogma, shared similar ideas. In apocryphal writings like the Acts of Philip, when the body is silent, the soul speaks, and when it goes, it sees its reflection in the light. Desert fathers like Origen and Gregory of Nyssa described a phase post-death where the soul recognizes its true essence, often in images of mirrors or light. Shamans from Siberia, the Amazon, and North Africa all independently speak of the soul's breath, a moment between 9 and 13 seconds after the last breath. Externally, the body is dead, but the soul lingers. They say those who pray, sing, or open their heart can guide or accompany the soul. Hospice reports mirror this. Some say the dying wait for someone before leaving. Perhaps it's no coincidence that this phase is known across the world. Perhaps it is a universal window, a space between worlds, where we are neither alive nor dead, but truth is visible, where the soul senses what it truly is, not flesh, not thought, but light in motion. If what we call death is just a threshold, not an end but a transition, then the great fear becomes a great question. What really matters? Not someday, but now. If your consciousness continues, then every decision, every thought, every moment in your life is a seed, whose bloom you will witness beyond the body. Then life is no longer a path into the void, but a call to truth. Many spiritual teachings say, the last 13 seconds of your life don't show you something new. They show you who you truly were. Like a mirror, clear and unrelenting. You don't just see what you did, but why. Not just your words, but your intent. And whether you were courageous, real, or hiding. This insight is not a judgment from outside, but inner knowing that strikes you lovingly but unavoidably. That's why many teachers say, you can prepare for that moment today, not by being perfect, but by being real, authentic, truthful. Ask yourself, am I truly living what my soul feels or just playing a role? Will I feel peace in my final seconds or regret? These questions aren't threats, they're a gift, because you are still here, still breathing, still choosing. Responsibility is not pressure, it is freedom. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a co-creator of your reality, and maybe, just maybe, living consciously now changes what you'll experience after. Because you prepared, not for death, but for what remains. In the end, it's not about whether you believe in life after death, but whether you're ready to live a life of truth now. A life you'll look back on in those last 13 seconds and say, yes, that was me. That was real. Maybe it's not a coincidence you watched this video to the end. Maybe something called you, not loudly but deeply. Something that knows you are more than a body, more than your name, your past, or your fear. If these 13 seconds are real, if our consciousness continues, if love, truth, and choice echo after death, then nothing ends. Then something begins, something you've carried inside all along. I know now why I walk this path, because I can't turn away anymore. Because something in me, perhaps God, planted a voice in my heart, and a light to guide me, not for answers, but for connection with you, with what remains, with the truth within us all. If you feel it too, if you want more than just to survive, then come with us. Subscribe to Zeitgeist. Share this with someone who remembers, not for me, but for what connects us, spirit to spirit, your Zeitgeist.